Morning all. Hope you're all doing well. Greetings, Odd Job. Thank you for joining. Hi Tim. I wasn't actually planning on coming on tonight. I was supposed to be down in Devon this evening, believe it or not. But it didn't work out. I had this woman booked me a couple of months ago for a photographic job. Her and her family were having a reunion. So hold on, I just got to reset this mic. So her and her family, they were having some big family reunion. They're London-based people, but they were having a reunion. And when she booked me, she told me it was going to be in Kent. And Kent, at least parts of it, are only about a 50-minute drive from where I am, down the North Circular and then down whichever motorway it is. So I quoted her a price for it. This was a couple of months ago. And on Thursday, I sent her a message. Hi, Clint. On Thursday, I sent her a message saying, can you please send me the full address with a postcode so I know where I'm going? So she sends me the postcode, and it turns out it's in Devon, which would have meant me being on the road for like 5 hours there and back, and then being at the venue for whatever it was. She didn't want me there for long. She just literally wanted a big family portrait. You know, one of these big 50, 60 people portraits. Hi, James. So I had to requote, and it is a hell of a difference, exactly. Good evening, the Bronx Piper. So I said to her, I'm going to have to requote, and I've also got to check with my wife, depending on what we had planned for Saturday night, because originally she wanted me on Friday, and on Friday is too short a day for me to have made it, given the increased distance of the venue. So she said, that's fine, they're there over the weekend, I can come Saturday night. So I said, fine, I'll just discuss it with my wife, check if there was anything else planned, and I'll come back to you. So I got back to her on Friday morning, requoted, and I didn't requote ridiculously. I charged her a couple of £100 more to cover my petrol and the increased time. Anyway, she was pressing me for a confirmation because she had booked me and it was like a day before. So I got back to her, gave her the price, and I hear nothing. So Friday afternoon, I sent her a message and I said, any update? What's the story? Nothing. And obviously I'm incommunicado on Saturdays. So as soon as sundown hits, I sent her a message and I said, actually I didn't send her a message. I expected that she would come, either say, where are you, as if nothing had happened and we're expecting you. But I heard nothing. So after about an hour I decided, okay, well this isn't happening. I sent her a message and I said, I assume you've made other arrangements. I was going to say something snide, but I didn't. I was going to say, thanks for letting me know, or thanks for getting back to me, sarcastically. But I didn't. I just said, I assume you made other arrangements. And that's it. So she got back to me and she said, no, they just decided it was too expensive and they're not going to have a photographer. Which was fine. I didn't respond because I have to say I was a bit miffed. But there you go. So that was this evening. So I wasn't intending to come on tonight because I was expecting to be driving on my way back from this venue. But it didn't happen. So instead I decided to process a job, which I've just finished. So I figured I'll come on for a bit. PA Piper, good evening. I've got some Earl Grey tea in the mug. And I think pipe-wise, Although I'm not smoking that much Latakia, but I'm certainly smoking it more than I have been. Earlier this evening I smoked some Sheraton rolls in this 55 shape Moretti. And I do like the 55 shape, the Saki pot. I haven't watched his video yet. I did see that he was doing a go, but I haven't watched it yet. Oh indeed, just look at that grain. So I think that I've pulled out the Astley, and I think I'm going to have some of this Penzance, which I got from Danny Shaw, that really old tin, that rusted tin, or even rusticated tin. Jerry is in the house. Good evening, Scrampa, Smoky Grandpa Bones. Hats and bees. I was on Pipes and Spirits Arts live a short while ago, and Dale, he asked me about my panel pipe, but I haven't progressed very much. This is the one I'm in the middle of at the moment, and there is a square panelled pipe as well, which is in the garage. This is a kit pipe, which I'm in the middle of. This is kind of looking a bit like, oh, it looks like I have to straighten the stomach a little bit. That's not too bad when you hold it straight. It's kind of starting to look a little bit like my Ascorti, actually. It wasn't intentional, it just happened that way. It was really the way the grain was going. Where is it? This is the Ascorti. And if you have a look at that, you can see that this one's kind of, I mean, it's different, obviously. You've got a much wider section there. And I may well do the same thing. I might try a little bit of rustication. Dale, I just mentioned you in dispatches. I don't know if this was the pipe you were talking about or the square panelled one, which is out in the garage. But I was just talking about you, that you'd asked about how my panelled pipe was doing. So this one's got some interesting grain structures coming through. You can see some bird's eye popping through there, and there should be some really nice cross grain going across the stummel. Still got plenty of sanding to do, but I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think I'm going to rusticate all of that area there and leave this smooth all the way up there. I'm just not sure how to transition from there to there. That's really my question. That's why I've kind of been stymied and I haven't progressed. It is kind of multi-sided. I have put a little bit of an edge there on the front, there and there, and there's a nice sort of straight sharp line going along the stummel. So it's not square panelled, but it is panelled. I thought you were referring to, I've got a really small square panelled pipe on my workbench at the moment as well, but I can't progress with that because I've sent the chuck which I had on my lathe, I've sent back to Axminster, so I'm going to be without a chuck probably for a couple of weeks at least, because probably on Monday I'm going to order one from well, the chuck I can order here, which is I have to get, there's only 2 chucks which are compatible with the jaws that I want to get from Vermont Freehand. So actually putting something on there is not a bad idea, but it's still a little bit too chunky. It is a bit chunky. And I had it's the problem that I had with the last, not the last one, but the one before, pipe that I did. But that was before I had the option of a lathe. But you can see I've had the same kind of issue there, and I've left it sort of almost complete because I didn't want to mess it up too much. And it came out okay, this one. It's got some nice grain on it. Oh, you've seen this one before. Oh, we've got some few people coming since I've been rattling on. Gonzalo Rodriguez, good evening, and either Harriet or Hugh in Herferville. Art, Pipe and Spirits, thank you for joining. Morgan Steele, greetings from Arizona. Indeed, greetings from London. So, yeah, so it's really, what I might do is just, if I rusticate this, I'll just continue the rustication round, and I think it'll soften it, that joint. It'll look okay, hopefully. So that's kind of what I'm thinking of doing. Road Guide Glide Sully is in the house. So that's kind of where I'm going with this one. Started trying to get my head around this. I'm not going to be able to do anything with this now until I get my new chuck and my new jaws. As I say, I probably won't get that for a few weeks now. So I'm just continuing, just practicing on the lathe with just spindle work really. This one was the first one that I made. It's a bit more chunky. It had a little bit of a sort of a flaw in the wood, it's Zebrano, so I just knocked this one out. I might actually go back on the lathe with this one just to thin it out a little bit, and I might do something else with it, maybe make a scoop on there because of that crack. Should have really not noticed that when I bought it, but anyway, so that's that one. And this is one which I'm really happy with. I have put pictures on this online before, but this one really worked out very nice. Got nice grain, it's nice and slim, and the turning's pretty good as well, so I'm really happy with that. Daniel Leslie, Quaker, YouTube Pipe Community. Daniel Leslie, welcome. I don't think I've seen your name before. Thank you for joining. And we've got some of these the lines going on as well. I've tried to make it as symmetrical as possible, so I'm really happy with that. I did offer it up for sale on a couple of the social media things, but no takers. Offered it up for £15, which is alright, I think. Not too expensive, I hope. But I think to begin with, I'm probably just going to be practicing. Maybe I'll send a few out as gifts, that kind of thing, until I get really proficient with it. So this was the old tin of Penzance, which came from Danny Shaw. I've smoked it once, it was very nice. It was quite dry, so I've put up a couple of Bevidas in there. No, I don't know anything about Peterson 1307 pipes. I'll try and answer you some general questions, but I don't know anything specifically about that particular pipe model, but somebody here might. It's still pretty brittle, this tobacco, I must say, despite being in there for a good few weeks with those Bevidas. It's really crumbling to nothing. Astley, Curmudgeon, howdy. That's for you, Art. Oops. These days I prefer a straight or nearly straight pipe. When I first started, I was probably I had more of a bent, if you know what I mean. But I did find that I too often had issues with bent pipes in terms of the drill and gurgling and so on. And before I went to 9mm pipes, also with bent pipes, often struggled with getting a pipe cleaner through it. And often you needed a lot of jiggery pokery to get round the bend. Nowadays I seem to go round the bend quite easily. But with a 9mm pipe, you can't get a filter beyond the stem, so there's not much call for it during a smoke. But having said that, the filter deals with most of the moisture anyway, so I rarely get gurgle in a 9mm pipe, rarely. This pipe here. Oh, this one. This is an Ascorti. It is like a dark maroon, purpley black kind of affair. This is an Ascorti Christmas pipe from Special Edition 1997. It's one of my top 5 pipes, despite the fact that I'm throwing it around. Definitely Road Glide. I appreciate that video, and I do have in mind what I want to do. My only problem is at the moment is that and in fact I want to actually make it myself and do a video of myself making it, because I haven't seen anybody out there with a video on how to actually make it. There's videos showing people using it, but not how to make it. And one of the things I plan on doing now is actually chronicle my journey with the lathe, because one of my biggest challenges is that although there's loads of videos of turning on the lathe, I found very, very little, and I'm still clueless about, is setting up briar blocks on a lathe in a way that it's central and it's square and exactly as it needs to be in order to turn a pipe. And I started, so I bought a really good high quality chuck with a couple of different jaws sets that you could buy sort of off the shelf, and it just didn't work. Just to show you my point, and I'm not technically minded, I'm not I've sort of in the past worked with my hands quite a bit, but I'm not sort of technically good working with my hands. I'm good in practice. I can put my hand to a lot of stuff. Like Art was saying earlier on, you can look at pictures and you can see what you need to do, and that kind of thing I've always been good at. Sort of flat pack IKEA style furniture I've never had a problem with, and doing some electrical work, some plumbing work, basic stuff I can put my hands to. I can keep things going in the house if you like. But as soon as when it gets a little bit more technical, I can struggle. I haven't spoken to BioGuru. Somebody did suggest that I should, and I haven't yet. I think it was Mel, Sweet Chicken. Don't laugh at me, but this was the first one that I turned. So you can see that the stem is way off center there, and that's the kind of thing that I was struggling with. But the truth of the matter is, I can still make this pipe because I can just trim that off. But that's just to give you an idea. So what I want to do really is to chronicle my journey, mistakes and all, and just so that people who are trying it and having the same issues can just sort of follow that journey, if you like. So my next stage at the moment is to get a set of jaws from Vermont Freehands, which are made specifically for pipe carving, and they are compatible with a couple of chucks out there, so I'm going to have to get one of those chucks, and that will be it. So it could be in the future, if I progress to sort of carving other things like maybe bowls and ashtrays and that kind of thing in the future, then I might go back and still get some of those jaws that I had. But for now, I really want to get to grips, excuse the pun, but to get to grips with briar blocks. Basic spindle turning is pretty straightforward, and it's just a matter of practice and experimentation, finding out different things that you can do, and that's I can do that, and I'll learn with time. But as I say, setting up the lathe with the briar blocks, I think it'd be something which other people would appreciate. Yeah, he's making some really good pipes, Quaker, Hector. So Daniel, to answer one of your earlier questions, do I use a Zippo? Yes, I do. I have this one, which is probably the one that I use the most, which is a Jack Daniels from, I assume that means a date there, it says 07, and it's got a brass pipe insert, and it works fine. I also have a gorgeous one sent to me by Art, Pipes and Spirits. Which I've put away so well, I don't know where it is. I think it's in one of my drawers. And this is one that my kids gave me on one of my birthdays, one of my many birthdays. What is your favourite tobacco, and have you ever smoked cigars, and what made you change if you did? Well, Daniel, just have a little wander through my channel. I think that might answer your question somewhat. But yes, I've smoked many cigars, far too many cigars. My favourite brand of cigar. By the way, Daniel, whereabouts are you in the world? Hi Meeks, hi Kevster. I'll come to your question shortly. So my favourite cigar is Cuban, which is, you're in Canada, right? So you can get Cuban cigars. But my favourite brand is H. Upmann. It's not to say that, say, Cohiba wouldn't be. Cohiba is very nice, but they're just too expensive. And they also are quite temperamental in terms of the time they need to really be at their best. Whereas H. Upmann's, I had a bunch of Connoisseur number ones, which were from 2017, which I smoked through a box in 2018, and they were absolutely phenomenal. You really expect to need to have at least 3 to 5 years minimum on a Cuban cigar, but these were a year old when I got them, and they were just so aromatic, such an essence kind of flavour to them and aroma to them. It was hard not to smoke through them, and I did. So that's my favourite brand. In terms of pipe tobacco, I couldn't name one particular blend. It would be impossible, I think. But I can certainly say which genre, and that is vapors. At the moment, certainly, vapors are my go-to type of tobacco. And if I have a blend which I like, I'll often add perique to it, to give it a little bit of kick that I enjoy. And I'm also slowly really starting to enjoy a bit of Kentucky as well. Hi Signalman, hi Meeks. Kevster, thank you very much. It's really interesting that you enjoy the channel despite not smoking. That's very cool. But yeah, I do try to cover some very varying topics and make it interesting, so I appreciate your support. Thank you. Yes, Hector, I do enjoy Kentucky. I'm dealing with it. I'm going to go on a 12-step program. Are you guys getting video or is it frozen? Oh, okay, maybe it's just you, Daniel. Okay, cool. You're enjoying Dark Twist, I'm pleased. That's a good smoke, Dark Twist. Was that one of the tins in the Gore prizes? I don't remember if there was a tin of that in there. Meerschaum pipes. I'm not a big fan. I have tried them and I do have a couple. One in particular which I do enjoy smoking from time to time, which I've shown many times here on the channel. I'm happy to show it to you again now if you want to see it. But I must be honest that for me Briar is the number one vehicle for my pipe smoking. I've tried Cobbs, I've tried Meerschaum. Meerschaum's okay. Yeah, PA, your icon would seem to indicate that you like your Meerschaums. Thank you, Gonzalo. Then there's this lighter here, which is really a cigar lighter, but it has a soft flame as well. It's adjustable. All my bent pipes are filtered. All of my pipes that I smoke are filtered now, except for one actually. The Phil Rivera Calabash, that's does not have a filter, and to substitute I put curled up pipe cleaners in there, and it does the job to a degree. After I generally smoke Latakia blends because they are less bitey, but after a while I'll start to feel the tingle on my tongue as well. So I usually have short smokes in that pipe. So to answer your question, the Bronx Piper, all of my pipes that are in my rotation are filtered. And the Penzance Calabash, but I did smoke some special Latakia flake in there the other day. But seeing as it comes from the same house, I thought it was permissible. And I've got several drawers of pipes which are not filtered and are not getting smoked, which some of them I'll have to start looking at once I start to get a little bit more proficient with my lathe. Perhaps I'll convert them myself, and there will be a sale coming up again soon. There's a whole host of pipes I need to get rid of. Well, got rid of is not a very nice term, but I need to pass them on to another loving home. The pipe with the white stem is a Moretti pipe, and it stays white. It's acrylic, so nothing's going to happen to it. The only thing that will happen eventually, as it's starting to happen, is that you'll see a darkening as the draft hole gets sort of cruddy with tobacco juices, and depending on how well he's sanded that draft hole will be how well I can clean it with a pipe cleaner with a bit of alcohol. let's give it a go, because it is pretty hard to really make a draft hole really smooth. Some pipe makers really work hard to make sure that every aspect of their pipes are completely smooth and technically sound. And those are the high-enders, which you'll pay money for, a lot of money. But you know, a pipe which is, you're going to pay, say, less than $150 to $200, you wouldn't expect them to spend hours and hours with a tiny file going through there from one grade to the next, so it becomes completely smooth. So you can see there's a little bit of a darkening there. We'll see if that goes. So there's a fair amount of stuff coming out here, but so far that is still pretty brown. I don't know if the acrylic itself will absorb some of that. I wouldn't have thought so. I need to get another bottle of this stuff. Hi David, good to see you again. It may have just lightened it a slight bit, maybe, not much. So that's the only drawback, I think, I suppose, with a white stem. And it depends also how thin it is. If this would be a thicker stem, you wouldn't see it. It would be opaque, but then the bit would be a little bit uncomfortable. So it's a balancing act, you know, getting a comfortable bit. Yeah, I'm not too bothered by it, to be honest. I was just answering the question, but I'll run a pipe cleaner through the pipes every so often, clean them. You know, anything which is deep grained in, if it's a regular pipe that I'm smoking, it is what it is. I'm not going to worry about it too much. The only time I'll worry about it is perhaps if I'm passing it on, and I want it to be in the best possible condition. Hi Briar Bear, how you doing? In terms of oxidization, there are some stems which will just, you know, you can polish them out and they'll be shining like new, and a week later they'll be brown again. And those ones are just, there's nothing to be done with those. Well, I might be wrong. I might be saying that in haste, say there's nothing to be done with them. But based on my experience, I've found that they just come back, the oxidization comes back. Hi Davey. I had a particular pipe from, it was a Soren Refberg pipe, which now somebody on the UK TPC owns. I sold it in one of my sales, but that one had the pipe itself was perfect, but the stem kept on oxidizing. I buffed it, sanded it, polished it to an absolutely piano black finish, and within a week it was brown. And I just got fed up, and I just had Ian Walker making me a beautiful jade Cumberland stem, and he made it 9mm as well. But that one was one that I sold to Chris Morley, actually. And he's enjoying it, which is good. So that's the main thing, as long as somebody's smoking it. Trying to decide if this Penzance is a little bit weaker than usual. possibly due to the age. Well, Hector, you know me, I'm not a Peterson fan. I'm really not. But it depends how old that pipe was. It might have been sitting somewhere for a long time. Tell you something that was interesting when I went to Blakemar Briars. When you cut an ebonite stem, the stench that it makes is so off-putting. And then you end up putting it in your mouth. It's just really disgusting. He was making, actually it was what Mike at Briar Blues will call a brindle stem. There was a Cumberland stem. You know the Eskimo shaped pipe which I made? He still got it. He hasn't. Well, he hadn't when I was there. He didn't have time to finish the stem. He was making quite a fancy stem, but he was cutting that Cumberland stem. The stench, the stink that it made was just so off-putting. It's a really unusual material, ebonite. Did you guys see me put a filter in this pipe? I think I did change it, didn't I? Getting a bit of a tingle on the tongue. I did get the lathe operational. However, as I was mentioning earlier, I've sent the chuck back because it will not suit the jaws that I want to get from Vermont Freehands. Cheers. I woke up on Friday morning with quite a bruised foot, and I've got no idea where from. Just the whole top of the foot, the top part, you know, where your tongue of your shoe is, that area there just was bruised for no reason. I don't remember banging it or anything like that, so I was struggling to walk with it. And I was overcompensating with my left side, and now today I've ended up with a pulled muscle in my left side, which is really uncomfortable. Good night, LCD. Have a good one. Could be, Tim. I don't suffer with it as much as I used to, but the muscles in the sides have been quite vulnerable over the years. But I used to get it more often, and if you do recall it, that's probably the last time it happened. And it takes a good few days to get over it. Daniel, I don't know what you call mid-range, but the two, well, what do you call mid-range? Give me a figure. I mean, especially if you're just starting, you don't really need to go to mid-range. You could go to Blakemar Briars and pick up an excellent pipe for £30–40, and that pipe will last you a lifetime and more. Cheers, James. 125 Canadian to 300. What is that in, any idea what that is in US dollars or English pounds? $90 to $100. Okay, so this is what I would say. There's obviously Savinelli. You can get some Stanwells, although the Stanwells from these days, the modern Stanwells are made in Italy as opposed to the ones which were made in Denmark. And I don't know what those are like. The ones I have are from Denmark and they smoke fantastically well. So I'm really not sure about the modern ones. But Italian pipes are good pipes generally, so probably okay. So you've got Savinellis, obviously. And with Savinellis you've got the option. Blakemar does export, yes. Well, you won't get, unless you get an estate Dunhill, you won't get a Dunhill for that kind of money. And I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's very nice to have a Dunhill, but and I'm not saying that they're not good pipes, but really I wouldn't worry about it too much. To buy a new one, you'd have to spend a minimum of £300, generally speaking. You can get cheaper ones for, say, about £225, the smaller ones, but I would spend your money elsewhere, personally, unless you're loaded. So you could get a Blakemar. You could get a Northern Briars by Ian Walker. Fantastic smoking pipes. I've had quite a number of Northern Briars pipes, and I don't think I've had a single one that didn't smoke well from the off. If I'm not mistaken, I think I heard somewhere that he bought up all of the briar from James Upshall pipes. So that's going to be pretty old briar. The thing about Dunhills, certainly the ones which are a bit older, in my experience, the ones that I've had, the draw has been phenomenal, quite exceptional. And I don't know if it was just in my mind, but in my mind I always describe the draw as velvety smooth. So that means it's open, but you still get a slight smidgen of resistance, which is what you want. And it always felt velvety. And despite the fact that the pipes are often quite thin, the walls, they smoked well and they smoked cool because of the type of briar and the treatment that they did to their briars. Today I don't know what they do, whether they do all that still or not, but certainly they used to. But I would certainly encourage you to look at Savinelli, Stanwell, Blakemar, Northern Briars. And you could do worse than look at Dagner's and OMS pipes. They're made in Italy, good pipes. They're well made, generally speaking. Well, it's not. It may not be the pipe that's smoking hot there, Daniel. It could be what you're smoking in it. There's a lot of things it could be. And you say that you're smoking aromatics at the moment, so that's going to be a factor. The casings and the alcohol and the sugar content is all going to have an effect on the heat of the smoke. How wet or dry the tobacco is, how you load the pipe. A lot of things will have an effect on how hot the pipe smokes. And if you are having an issue with hot pipes, I would recommend that you get a quite a well rusticated pipe to start with. I don't know how long you say you've been smoking a pipe, But I would definitely look out for a well rusticated pipe, because that will help. The rustication has like a radiator effect, and it dissipates the heat. It helps to dissipate the heat. But Tim is absolutely right that a new pipe will smoke hot until you've built up a little bit of a carbon layer inside. And the more layer that you have in there, the better it will sort of act as a buffer. But at the same time, you don't want it to get too thick. But I've never had a problem with that. Never ever had a problem with that. I've been smoking pipes for about 3 years, and none of them have ever yet created the layer. I think we smoke differently to how people used to smoke years ago. People would smoke a pipe day in, day out, and it would build up. I've had certainly, there's a video on my channel of me restoring a Peterson, an old Peterson, and that thing was virtually completely full of cake, and I had to literally drill through to create a bowl shape again. But nowadays we tend, not all of us, but we tend to, Cadence absolutely makes you 100% right, but we tend to have quite a few pipes, and therefore most of our pipes don't get over smoked to the extent where the cake is building up. The pipe here, this is a Northern Briars. He calls it a Quebec shape, quite suitably for Daniel. And this is typical of his pipes in terms of the quality of the briar. Although it's quite a, there's tobacco in there. That's naughty. There's plenty of grain on it, which also will indicate a good smoking pipe. By the way, you can get some pipes where they're quite bald. What I mean by that is that there's sort of flat spots where it's just the color of briar with no grain, and that's going to be, there's going to be no root for them. But the grain is essentially the different densities sort of going through the wood, and it allows the moisture to travel. If you have a flat spot where there's no grain at all, if you're buying a pipe and you see a pipe that's got very little grain, you should stay away from it. So all of his pipes generally, Northern Briars, tend to be quite grainy, and they smoke very, very well. This one's Cumberland stem with a sterling silver band. Well, Daniel, I sympathise. I struggled with tongue bite for a long time till I moved to 9mm pipes. I only smoke filtered pipes now, and that has eradicated the problem. But certainly it sounds like that a few things that you could be doing. You could be perhaps not smoking aromatics. Make sure your tobacco is well dried, but not too dry. So that's going to be a matter of experimentation. You don't want it to be tinder dry, so that when you rub it between your fingers it crumbles to dust. And at the same time, you don't want to be so wet that when you squeeze it, it stays in the form that you squeeze it, because it's so wet. You want it to spring back a little bit. And that's usually, it shouldn't feel moist when you touch it, but there should still be some springiness to it to indicate that there is some moisture in there. And slow down your cadence, slow down your speed that you're smoking, and that hopefully will reduce the tongue bite. And if all else fails, try and definitely go to English tobacco. Yes, go to Latakia blends, because they will burn a lot cooler. But if all else fails, try a 9mm pipe. I don't like encouraging people to do it, because I think it's a bit of a last resort. There's nothing wrong with it, don't get me wrong. But I think that if you can teach yourself to smoke a pipe without resorting to 9mm, I would do that, because you'll leave yourself open to a much larger range of pipes. Whereas when you've got 9mm, you're limited, because there are not that many out there. I mean, there's still hundreds of thousands of them, but still, compared to non-filtered ones, not as many. Yeah, until you get the hang of it, Daniel, you will find that your pipe goes out a lot. It's just a matter of practice. Don't get put off by it. It's just a matter of practice, and that could also, again, will be to do with a few things. It could be to do with how tightly you're packing your pipe. If you're packing it too tight, then there's not enough oxygen getting through it, and therefore it hasn't got enough oxygen to keep it alight. 3 to 4 times a bowl is fine, actually. It's absolutely fine. That's not too bad at all. If it's very moist, your tobacco, it will also need relighting. And you just need to also just practice with the art of tamping. Tamping is important to help keep your tobacco alight. No problem at all with the relighting. The point of tamping, when you load your pipe, you light it, you give it I see some people stuffing their tamper in there, and I think that's just defeating the purpose. If you compress your tobacco too much, you'll make it too tight and the oxygen can't travel through it very well, so your pipe's going to go out. If you just gently compress the top layer of ash, just gently compress it, you relight, and do it a couple of times, and what happens is that you form a little ash crust on top of your, some people call it a cherry, but you form a little bit of a crust on top of your tobacco, and what that does is it insulates the cherry, the burning bit of your tobacco, and it helps to keep it cool. The same with the end of a cigar. You're not supposed to tap off, you're not supposed to ash your cigar, because the ash, number one, there's etiquette when it comes to cigars. So one of the etiquette things is not to do about, who cares about etiquette, you smoke it how you like. But keeping the ash on helps to keep the cigar cool. It insulates it, so it doesn't go out. So it's a matter of practice. Yeah, absolutely. Drink. Always drink. Whether it's coffee, tea. Some say one shouldn't drink alcohol, but plenty of people do. When smoking. But coffee, tea, water. Just keep hydrated. Keep your mouth hydrated. Coffee goes very, very well with Latakia blends. And Earl Grey tea, which is what I'm drinking now, does go well with Virginias, even though I'm smoking a Latakia, but Earl Grey goes, I enjoy Earl Grey. It's nice and aromatic. The rubber bits, the softy bits, it's a matter of taste, really. Hi, Abdullah. The softy bits, I started off using softy bits, but I stopped after a while, and I don't use them at all. I just didn't enjoy it. It was too much of a mouthful. I just didn't enjoy the sensation of it, and but I also don't like most acrylic stems either. I find it a little bit too harsh on my teeth. And generally, if I'm ordering a custom pipe, 9 times out of 10 it'll be a Cumberland stem. Otherwise it'll be the black ebonite stems. A lot of my pipes are Cumberlands. Hey, Wildcat. Hey, Fluoride. Look, if you're if you're buying a pipe, if you're buying it from a B&M, if you're not sure, just ask. And usually if you're buying online, the description will tell you whether it's ebonite, or whether it's vulcanite, or whether it's acrylic. To be honest, they're all different types of plastics. I personally stay away from acrylic, but there's loads in America, especially acrylic is widely used because of the most sort of the attractive style of, the colourful stems that you can get. Good night, Dale. Thanks for joining. One good example is Nerup pipes. Always got nice colourful stems, and he's an exception that I make with acrylics because he makes a very comfortable bit. He does a really good job at that end of the pipe, and it's really comfortable. And because they're sort of stubby smokers, they're also comfortable to clench, so the balance is good. Harold, did you say that you were drunk? Acrylic is plastic. It's just plain plastic, whereas Cumberland is we've got a rubbery content. I don't know the exact makeup, but it's certainly a softer blend of materials. You have to try the P-lips. I don't know. I didn't like them, but you have to try them. I tried them a couple of times and didn't really enjoy them. But it's down to personal taste, and there's an audience for them because they make them, and they make a lot of them. I have no Ardor pipes, no Scot-free, no. Hi, Steve. Interestingly, Art, I didn't find that it helped with tongue bite. I mean, that was the original raison d'etre of the P-lip, was to redirect the smoke to the roof of your mouth, away from the tongue. I actually didn't find it made a lot of difference. Maybe if I tried it again now it would, I don't know. It was a long time ago that I tried it. And Harold, when did I ever say that I was skint? I don't recall saying that. It's not to say that I'm not, but I'm just wondering when I said it, if I did. Daniel, it would be a pleasure when I get to the point of feeling happy to pass on the pipes, then I will with pleasure. This one remains to be seen what happens with it. If it's something that I'll be willing to sell, we'll have to see. I want to try possibly doing some rustication on that. Yeah, I have heard people say that, Hector, that it bends the roof of your mouth. Yeah, Castello is definitely a good way to go. I haven't bought a Castello as yet, and at the moment that's not looking likely because they don't do any 9mm pipes. Yeah, Daniel, any good news in my life? It's always good news. All news is good news. We just don't know it sometimes. But I am looking forward to a grandchild in a few weeks' time, which will be grandchild number 3, all being well. My daughter is abroad at the moment with her husband. They've been abroad for about 9 months, and they're coming back this week on Thursday. And they're coming to stay with us for a while. And my son-in-law will be trying to get a job and getting their own place, and yeah, take it from there really. And my son is my 4th son is approaching his 13th birthday, which will be an event as well. All around the same time, I will be turning 50. In fact, that son has the same birthday as me. Yeah, it's 2:30 a.m. And my father will be turning 80. All around the same time. No, he doesn't smoke a pipe. Nobody in my family smokes a pipe. Hi, Cherry. AKA Cherry. Ooh, that's a tough one, Daniel. I did a top 5 not long ago. Cheers, Wildcat. It's a really tough one. I don't think there's a simple answer to that question, and that's why I did a top 5 as opposed to a top pipe. A favourite pipe, I really couldn't say. You know, when I did the top 5, I wasn't smoking Latakias hardly. It'd been a year or so since I'd smoked a Latakia, and now that I'm smoking Latakia more, I could say that possibly one of my Latakia pipes. But if I was really honest, I would say one of my favourite pipes I don't smoke. Cheers, the Bronx. My Soren Refberg bent billiard. I smoke Northwoods in that all the time. But I don't smoke it because it's not filtered and I can't convert it, so it doesn't get smoked, but it's one of my favourite pipes. Another Soren Refberg, the one with the green jade band, stunning little pipe, small pipe, was one of my favourite pipes, but it's not filtered, I can't filter it, so it doesn't get smoked. Right, Tim. I've not actually had that with pipe tobacco. I've had it with cigars in the early days, but not recently. I think I've built up a resistance now to tobacco mostly, but you know, I'm always hesitant with certain tobaccos. I haven't really had any of the ropes from Garth and Hogarth. Dark Strong Kentucky, people say is really strong. Haunted Bookshop, people say puts you on your back. I did try it, but I did get a bit of a nick hit, but from it, but certainly not. It didn't put me on my back. But one time that I really did feel unhappy was early on when I was starting with cigars, and I smoked a Ramon Allones, a limited edition, I think it was, and I really felt pretty sore or ill afterwards, or during it. And there was also a Padron anniversary, which was a big cigar. It was a Churchill, but it's not like a British Churchill, which is a 47 or a 48 ring gauge. This was something like a 56 ring gauge or 58 ring gauge, and it was about 7 inches long. And it took me 3 sittings to smoke it. And that one did give me a fair bit of nick. Lakelands, I don't like Lakelands. I'll smoke them occasionally. Some of them I can tolerate, but mostly I don't. I don't really enjoy them. Not my thing. Some people love it. I don't. Hi Steph, how you doing? Yeah, Old Joe Krantz is another one of those strong burley blends. Yeah, I can understand that, Hector. I had that with Latakia generally. I've said it many times. Latakia, the first time I just opened the tin, I was repulsed by the smell of it, never mind smoking it. But then I got hooked on Latakia blends. A good vapor, there's so many. If you want to have something relatively easy, I'll tell you what, try Luxury Bullseye Flake. Has that one got Perique in it? Peter Stokerby. Cabby's Mixture I would not try. I would not try that at this stage. Cabby's Mixture is probably a little bit too rich if you're just starting off. Harold, that's only because you're being a little bit nauseating in your drunken stupor. That's why I'm ignoring you. Yeah, Cabby's, I find it a little bit too rich sometimes, but it's a really nice tobacco, but I would leave that for now, go to it at a later date. I would recommend, as I said, Peter Stokerby's Luxury Bullseye Flake. I would recommend, it's a little bit more expensive sometimes, but Davidoff Flake Medallions. I find it to be really nice, and it's quite mild compared to the others. Escudo, yes, I personally don't like Escudo as much. I find Escudo to be a little bit more savoury, but certainly Dunhill Navy Rolls, if you can get it. Dunhill Navy Rolls is a great tobacco. The equivalent, the new Sheraton Rolls, is very nice. Hi Cal Delta. Solani, yeah, a lot of people absolutely love Solanis, but I personally, I mean, I've got a fair amount of it, but I haven't enjoyed it that much. I find it to be a little bit too mild and lacking in the Perique front. Flake tobacco is very good. It's about finding what works for you. The main reason why I like flake tobacco is that I can prepare it how I want. Yeah, Meeks. Yeah, it's a good point. But the vast majority of my audience is not from the UK, with the exception of a few people. It's all from the US, Canada, places like that. And if I was to stream at 10 p.m, it would be like 5-6 p.m, which is supper time in the US, and people are doing other things with their families. So I think there wouldn't be a lot of point in doing that. So I kind of try to fall in between. Tonight I started later than usual because I wasn't going to come on at all. Wasn't really feeling up to it, in pain, and just wasn't going to. But then I just thought, you know what, go on for a bit. And when I go on for a bit, it ends up being a long time. We're over an hour already without even trying. I've got a tin of Old Gary. I still haven't tried it. Hell of the Wind, or the Wind. Tim sent me some a sampling of it. I still got some. The sample that I had, I wasn't blown away by, but you know, a lot of stuff you've got to try a few times before you can really get to grips with it. Daniel, I don't dedicate. Maybe the other one or two pipes is dedicated to a particular blend, but generally speaking, I dedicate to genres of blends. So there'll be Virginias or Vapors, and there'll be Latakias and Aromatics. That's my three, pretty much the three types of dedications that I've got. So the vast majority of my pipes are dedicated to Virginias or Vapors. Then I've got a couple which are aromatic pipes, and there's about 4 or 5 which are Latakia pipes. I don't smoke Burley blends very much, no. Occasionally, but not much. I just don't like the taste of Burleys, most Burleys. I mean, some of the older ones are better, but I find Burley, to my palate, Burley blends, I find that they taste of cardboard. They taste dusty, and I just don't like it. Some people see that taste as nutty, and sometimes it is when it's added to a blend, yes. But when something is Burley forward, I just don't enjoy them. Harold, what are you smoking tonight? Besides for vitriol. Yeah, you can, but you know, Harold usually comes on and is a perfectly enjoyable participant. But as he said when he came on tonight, he's been drinking, so giving him a little bit of a leeway. Hey, Crazy Night, how you doing? Yes, he's a little bit, a few sheets to the wind, as they say, or worse for wear. Daniel, yeah, I mean that's something which you will find with just experience. Tobaccos will smoke differently in different pipes, and it's often hard to predict, or always hard to predict. Cheers, Harriet or Hugh, whoever you are. Some people talk about having narrow pipes, using them for flakes and stuff like that. I personally haven't had a great experience with that. I just find that some pipes smoke better. I do find that with pipes, with like pot-shaped pipes with a wider chamber, when you've got a blended tobacco, because you've got a larger area of tobacco which is being smoked, the surface, because it's a wider bowl, so you're getting different flavors, more different flavor. You're getting a wider variety of tobacco being smoked at one time, so that can be more flavorful. So if I have a pot pipe, I'll often use it for Latakia blend, for instance, because you get more of the flavor coming through. But overall, when I say narrow, I mean the diameter. So, for instance, this one is probably about 23 or 24 mil, and I don't know, this one is probably about 18 mil or 20 mil. You can see the difference there, right? So this one is quite a bit narrower than this one. Having said that, This is a Latakia pipe, and it smokes awesome. The Boswell pipe, and that is probably also one of my favourite Latakia smokers. But sometimes you get a pipe which just doesn't smoke well with a particular tobacco. Sometimes you got to, change it up, smoke something else in it. Here's a perfect example. This is one of my favourite pipes to look at, but I was just not getting anywhere with it. I could not get a decent smoke out of it. This is a Soren Refberg, and I was smoking Virginias in it, vapors, and I couldn't get a decent smoke out of it. I moved this over to Latakia blends, and I'm loving it. It's smoking fantastically well. I just like the shape of it. It's got a classic Danish shape to it, and it's got a nice little wood insert there which works really well. It brightens it up, it pops, and it just smokes very, very well now, and I'm really delighted that I didn't sell it. I think I even had it up for sale once or twice. A thin-walled pipe, you are going to get heat coming through. You've got less of a buffer, so your hands might burn. But if you've got a thin-walled pipe, but which is very well seasoned, which is good quality briar, it will dissipate the heat, and it will be fine. Good night, Hector. Harold, I think you're right. A lot of people don't really care what they smoke in their pipes, and it works for them. I have sometimes taken a Latakia pipe and smoked an aromatic in it, and then gone back to Latakia and enjoyed that little blend of that legacy sort of aromatic flavour together with the Latakia. But it depends if you're fussy about the flavours, But yeah, sure, plenty of people smoke anything and everything in their pipes. Dorchester's nice. I actually went through a period a couple of years ago when I was smoking it a lot. Any Germain's tobacco is going to be a decent smoke generally. Good night, Cherry. Thanks for joining. Yeah, Cap, absolutely. I don't know, I'm not familiar with Commonwealth mixture. I do smoke in my car. You'll see plenty of videos on my channel of me smoking in the car. One of my favourite places to smoke. And you have to have windows open, that's all. But if you smoke regularly, your car is going to have a bit of a smell in there. There's nothing you can do about it. You air it out. After a smoke, leave all the windows open and drive, so plenty of air is rushing through it. Generally speaking, as long as you're not smoking in there with the windows closed, you should be okay. You shouldn't really get too stinky. Yeah, the smoke does get in there, and it will get a bit yellow after a time. But generally speaking, good airing out is okay. Cigars are a problem. Because the ash does sort of, even with pipes sometimes the ash flies around, if your pipe's full especially, and you do get ash all over the place, and you have to wipe down the surfaces every so often. pipe smoking should be done whichever way you feel happy. Certainly a traditional way would be with your velvet smoking jacket in your armchair, but you smoke your pipe wherever you want and wherever it makes you feel happy. It depends on the tobacco, Daniel. Some tobaccos will leave a lot of ash, and some of them, as you go down, you keep tamping and it compresses it, and you end up with a little bit of ash at the end, and you tip it out and you're done. Whereas some of them, good night the Bronx, thanks for joining, some of them you do have to tap out occasionally. But I don't usually fill my pipe. I usually only have a half a bowl at a time. And the main reason for that is I find that, number one, I like to have different tobaccos, and number two, often the flavors dissipate as you get down the bowl and they start to get a bit ashy in terms of the flavor. So I generally tend to fill half a bowl. Ghosting is when you get a very flavorful tobacco, like a Lakeland for instance, or a Latakia, a heavy Latakia, and it leaves a flavor in the pipe. That's what ghosting is. So even once you've cleaned the pipe and emptied it, the flavor gets absorbed in the briar, and you can draw it out with special treatments, with salt treatments and things like that, or just smoking another type of tobacco a few times through it. But Lakelands are notoriously difficult to get out of a pipe. Harold, what's the earliest time of the day that you've had a whiskey? After 6. Not only are you drunk, but you're also a liar. Yeah, you go ahead, Daniel, no problem. 8 a.m. more like. I use the Vaughan Dr. Pearl Jr. Filters. There was a time when I experimented with different ones, but I use these ones. And they work just fine. You smoking at the moment, Daniel? It's in terms of I meant Harold, actually. Yes, you're right, Harold. It was you that I was asking if you were smoking. What are you smoking, Harold? Some people find that it does restrict, some people don't. I don't find that the filter hampers my smoking in any way, shape or form. If I smoked without a filter now, I'd probably find it too open. In fact, sometimes I forget to put a filter in, and when I smoke it, that's when I realise that I don't have a filter in it, because I can tell the difference. Some people talk about the flavour being restricted, and, you know... Yes, Harold, you are indeed trolling. You're doing an excellent job of it as well. I'm more than happy to be your subject. Yeah, a smooth new pipe is not ideal, but you got to break it in at some point. Um, 6mm filters and 9mm filters, roughly 3mm, I think. I think that the filtration is not as effective because you don't have the same amount of charcoal in them. I hear, because I haven't really tried them, I hear that the flow is restrictive a little bit in the 6mm, and of course they're not as readily available. You can get them, but they're not as readily available. When I buy a new pipe, I prefer a naked bowl, and I coat it with honey before I smoke it. Cal Delta, that's an excellent question. It's one of my pet gripes, because if you have a filter which is going backwards and forwards, it's just a sign of not too much care being taken in the creation of the chamber which houses the 9mm filter. It really shouldn't. I've got some pipes where the filter, it's in the garage now, but the pipe that Blakemar just put a stem on for me, the panelled pipe, that one he made a really snug fit, and that's how it should be. So on the stem end here, if it's snug enough, when you put the filter in, it's gripped by the stem. I'm not sure which one this is. No, this is loose. So if the depth between in here is too long, then when you draw, it'll just be pulled back, and then it'll come out again. You draw, it'll pull back, so you get this movement when you're drawing in and out, and it's very common. You know, it's a matter of just ignoring it, really, for the most part. There are things you can do. You can take a little bit of paper, which I've done in the past. Take a till receipt, which is probably the best thing to do, and just a small amount, and you just twist it around and put it in, and that will help it grip, and that should stop the problem. I'm sure you're right, Harold, but I'm going to nevertheless. Typing is not easy, Harold, is it? Certainly not when you're drunk. What are you smoking, Harold? Ouch. Epoxy match. It's giving me a splinter. Look at that. It's gone right in. Oh, bugger. Hey Jeff, how you doing? Andrew Sirigliano, lucky man tonight. You know you won something on what's his name's channel. Ah. There we go. And there's the little blighter. Get something black you can see it against. Yeah, see that? Successfully extracted. No harm done. What a man. No anesthetic. Just straight in there. Mommy, I need a plaster. I need a bandage. I need to take off work. I need a whiskey. Harold. Yeah, I'm on oxygen. I'm on a vapor. Aberlour. That's a nice whiskey, actually. What other whiskies you got there, Harold? Harold, how many whiskey bottles am I holding up? You get used to it, Daniel. You do get a little bit of a fuel flavour. But what you can do is when you light it, is just let it burn for a couple of seconds before you bring it to the pipe, and it will burn off most of that vapour. But you do get a little bit of a flavour, yeah, you do. And also get the original Zippo fuel, not the cheap ones. And the Zippo one has got less odour. They do have some odour, but there's less odour in them. No, I've never been to Canada. At least I don't think I have. When I was younger, I went to the US, and no, I don't think I have. I've got family there. I've got a lot of family there. I've got family in Canada, in America, Australia, Switzerland, France, Gibraltar. Night, Steve. Night, Steam Gent. Belgium. Evening, Ryan. How you doing? Yeah, you are late. I think we're going to wrap up soon. We do have some smoking lounges. They're quite limited, though. There are a few in town, in London, that you've seen in my videos, or you will see if you look through my channel. There are a few dotted around the country, but there's not many. You've got some really heavy grade laws in Canada, I know that. I know you pay very high taxes as well. Anthony, London is good. Yeah, the US has got a lot of cigar lounges, but proportionately it might be the same. It's just that America is so much vastly bigger than the UK. Proportionately, it might be the same. You can't smoke indoors here, except in obviously your home and in the lounges, yeah. Yes, you can all try and do what Art did and get yourself a shed. There used to be a guy on, pops in and out every so often, Drew of the Shed, who used to smoke in the shed, do videos in his shed. But he popped back briefly a few months ago and then he's gone again. Truth is, you got to stock up wherever you are, you know. If you've got particular tobaccos that you like, and they're readily available, it just makes sense to, to put a stock together. You don't have to go crazy, but even if you buy 1 tin a month and just build up that way, build up your stock of it, and then if it ever does go away, you'll have plenty to go with. Cigars or pipes? Well, at the moment it's pipes. A year ago it was cigars, and 2 years ago it was pipes and cigars in equal number, probably. When did I have my last cigar? I think Thursday was my last one. I've said this very often. Sometimes, especially when I'm after working at a wedding or something like that, and I'm really sort of tired, then sometimes only a cigar will do. But I'm finding that less and less these days. Cigar smell probably does linger longer, yeah. I think that the smoke is more viscous, and the particles, I think they adhere to surfaces more than pipe tobacco. By profession, I'm a photographer. I'm a photographer and a wannabe pipe maker. And I dabble in some other bits and bobs. I'll do a bit of everything really. I do weddings, engagement parties, bar mitzvahs, fundraising dinners, some news items occasionally. Pretty much anything really. Cheers, CP. Hi, Piper Hips. How you doing? Fujifilm make good cameras. They really do. I don't use them professionally. I do have a Fujifilm. I think it's an XE1, possibly. One of the small system cameras. But it's kind of sitting in the box. There's the box. Oh yeah, definitely I do. If I get a few minutes, I'll have a pipe or a cigar. Yeah, definitely. I remember once I was doing a wedding, and I was starting off in the bride's house, and the mother was a little bit of a hyper kind of person. I remember that wedding actually quite clearly because the bride was quite a large girl, and I remember I went to meet them before the wedding, and she said to me, "Are you able to sort of take into account my size?" And on the whole, I think she was very, very happy with the results, because you do have to adapt to these kind of things. But I was actually very impressed with that bride, because sometimes people who are large, they're quite self-conscious about it and just don't want to talk about it, and they really don't want to have pictures taken of them. But this girl, she just knew what she wanted, and she said, "Look, I know I'm large, just try and take that into consideration." Oh, pipes and pictures, please. That's not necessary. And she was very happy with the results all round. But anyway, her mother was quite a highly strung person, and I just had a cigar on the way to the house, and she was quite full of herself. And as soon as I walked through the door, she said, "You've just had a cigarette, haven't you? I'm very good at smelling. I've got a fantastic sense of smell." And I said, "Actually, no, I've just had a cigar, and you wouldn't have to have much of a sense of smell to smell somebody who's just had a cigar." But anyway. But yeah, I definitely enjoy a cigar or a pipe in the middle of a wedding sometimes, just to chill out a bit when I can. You're certainly sounding like Harold, Pipes and Pictures. I have one calabash pipe. I had another one which I gave to Izzy, to Happy Go Lucky Piper. It's not a gourd calabash, it's just a calabash shape. This is a Phil Rivara pipe. And this is generally reserved for Penzance, but I have smoked something else in it recently. I smoked Special Atakia Flake. But this is a proper calabash shape. You've got the hole right at the bottom of the bowl. And with this particular pipe, I usually roll up a pipe cleaner in there, put it in, because it's not filtered, and that acts as a filter. And I can cope with about half a pipe without a filter in this one, when I've got a pipe cleaner in there. It's a beautiful pipe, stunning grain, nice Cumberland stem. And Phil Rivara does some great metal work. It really is a special pipe, and it's only because of it it's so special that I haven't sold it on, despite it not being a 9mm pipe. It could really be converted, The room is there. I'd have to send it back to Phil to sort out that, but the stem has got enough room for it. It could happen. I've even thought on some of my pipes is to actually make a stem, a two-part stem, and make the filter in the stem rather than messing with the pipe itself. So just adding a little section to house the filter, which will just sort of fit into the rest of the stem. I'm surprised that people haven't actually done that. But that's possibly something for the future with this pipe. You don't have to burn the pipe, you have to smoke it. Breaking in a pipe is essentially just getting through those first few smokes, and according to people like the Artful Codger, you have to smoke a pipe 100 or 150 times to really truly break it in. But I have to be honest, some of my pipes, within a few smokes, they smoke fantastically well, and some of them don't. Hey, Nathaniel, how you doing? Shavua Tov. I have smoked church wardens. I did have a beautiful pot, which I sold on, and the nearest thing I've got to a church warden at the moment is a Paul's pipe, which is this one here. It did have a different stem, but I had this one converted to 9mm, and the stem got messed up, so they put another stem on it. But I think this one I'm going to have another stem made, a much longer one, to be a proper church warden at some point in the future. It's a Paul's pipe, Paul Menard pipe. Well, some pipes coming broken in, they're not broken in. What they will have is either they'll have a coating inside, which is often a food grade coating, which people have their own recipes for, and some of them will be burnt. So what you'll see is, if you go onto some YouTube channels, what you'll see is they'll put a pipe, they'll have a metal poker, a red hot metal poker, like that, which sticks up from some kind of furnace, and they will put the new pipe over it like this and do that for a couple of seconds, and it scorches the inside of the bowl, and that's their sort of starting of a carbon layer. But that's not broken in, it's just the beginnings, and then you have to break it in by smoking it. I have no idea about clay pipes. I've never smoked one, although I have one here which was sent to me by a good guy on the UK TPC, but I've not smoked it yet. Supposedly they're supposed to be quite similar to meerschaums in that they are very absorbent and give you a dry smoke, but I've not tried it yet. Yeah, I guess so. You just bite down on it. You know, you've got a ridge there on the bit, and you just put that behind your teeth, and that's it. You just hold it between your teeth. Cheers, Daniel. Good luck with the smoking. Clay pipes are very fragile, yeah. I don't think I've caught one of your lives, Pipes and Bees. When do you usually go on? Night, crazy night. with a pipe. I don't drink that much alcohol. Whiskey maybe once or twice a week. Wine occasionally, but I'm not a big alcohol drinker. You know, Abdullah, in the old days, all people smoked was clay pipes, in London especially, and they smoked them once and threw them away. That was what they did. People are forever sort of finding stuff on the edge of the Thames, the River Thames, and they find old clay pipes. People smoked them once and chucked them. Sam, no, that's not. It's my pipe, but it's not one that I've made. This is one that I'm in the middle of making. But still plenty of work to go on this one. Just taking on board a little bit of sugar, excuse me while I munch. Well, a pipe I'll light either with a match or with a soft flame lighter. And a cigar I'll usually light also with a soft flame lighter, but not with a match. And not with a petrol lighter, with a regular lighter with a soft flame. If it's a non-Cuban cigar, I'll often light it with a jet lighter. And if I'm relighting a Cuban cigar, I'll often also use a jet lighter. But when I start off a cigar, I usually use a soft flame. Hi, Lucky Piper. Oh, that's cool. Pipes and Spirits Art. If you go there, take a picture. In New York. I've been to the US twice, but a very long time ago. I went twice in my teens. In those days, I smoked cigarettes. I smoked Marlboro Lights. I smoked cigarettes for about 5 years. I think I started when I was about 16 and a half, 17. And I smoked till I was about 21, 22. No, anybody can smoke there, Andrew. I think you'd have to sort of buy a cigar or a tobacco and smoke it, but they don't enforce it. I mean, they expect people to spend some money in the shop, and then you can go upstairs and smoke whatever you want, really, as long as it's legal. But I was in my teens. In fact, when I was on the way to America in the duty-free shop, they had a special offer on, and they were selling a case of Marlboro Lights of four packs, 4 times 10, so 40 packets of cigarettes. They had some kind of special offer, so I bought that. I went to the US. I was there for about, I can't remember how long I was there for, maybe 10 days, something like that. And I stayed in this, I think it was a basement apartment, and the ceiling was really low. And it was kind of some kind of bunk that I was sleeping on, and it had a really hot light right above the bed. And I don't know what it did to me, but I don't know if it was a combination of jet lag and this hot light, and I don't know, I just felt ill a lot of the time. Anyway, on the way back, I was on the escalators in Heathrow Airport. In those days you were allowed to smoke indoors, and I was smoking up Marlboro Light, and I felt so ill. I almost fainted on the escalator. And at the time, it was all a combination of all the travel time and the jet lag and whatever. And I decided that it was the cigarettes, and I stopped cold turkey there and then. I think I was about 22 years old. No, I was younger. I must have been about 19 or 20. Because I stopped and then started again later on. So I stopped there and then cold turkey. I had these 800 or 1,000 cigarettes in my cupboard at home for about 2 years. They were probably stale by then, and I didn't touch them. In the end, I gave them away. And I think once I gave them away, a short time after that, I kind of experimented again, and I smoked again for about a year or two, and then I got married and slowly petered out. And I think by the time I was 22, 23, I stopped completely, and I haven't smoked cigarettes since. So that's almost 30 years ago. Where did I visit? I remember going up the Empire State Building. I think I went up one of the Twin Towers. We went for a wedding. One time I went for a relative's wedding, and one time I went for my brother's wedding. He married a girl from New Jersey. We drove to Baltimore one time. I remember that. Long drive. Everywhere's a long drive in the US. But I don't remember that much of it. I do remember on the way to Baltimore, we needed the toilet, and we couldn't find a toilet. We found this petrol station, and we were in a minibus. There must have been about, I don't know, 12 or 16 of us, and everybody needed to go to the loo. And I remember it's the first and last time I've ever been in the toilet with somebody else. There was one toilet, and in the toilet there was a urinal and a toilet seat. And I remember going in there with my brother, and we both used them at the same time. And that was the first and last time I did that. And there was no cubicle for the toilet. It was all in one room with no separation whatsoever. Eric, you said that last time. How are you doing, Eric? I would love to visit Israel again. It wasn't that long ago that I was there. I just didn't have time to come to Tiberias. I was there a few months ago when my son had his baby boy. Cheers, Piper Hips. Do I have kids? Yes, I have kids. I have kids and I have grandkids. These are the 2 toothpicks that I've made. I'm sure you've seen them already. The lathe is doing good, except as I mentioned earlier, I've had to send the chuck back and the jaws So I'm going to have to wait till I can get some jaws from the US. So it's going to take probably a few weeks till I actually get back on the lathe in terms of pipes, but I'll certainly be carrying on practicing on these kind of things. But certainly next time I'm in Israel, I'm going to do my very best to come down to Tiberias. 2 times ago, we did come to Tiberias, but I didn't know you then. I was in Tiberias for about an hour. My daughter-in-law, she's English, although she has an American passport, funnily enough. I'm 49, Steam Gent. I'm turning 50 in April. And I have 9 children, a daughter-in-law, a son-in-law, and 3 grandchildren. Yes, 9. So we planned to go to Tiberias that day. And my daughter-in-law said, yeah, it's an hour's coach drive. So we jump on a coach. It took about 3 hours to get there. And the time we got there, it was getting dark, and we had to get back on the last bus. So we were literally there for like an hour, and it was dark. We really didn't get to see the beauty of Tiberias and the river, the river or whatever it's called. Is it the Kinneret, Netanel? In Tiberias? Big Papa Simon, yeah, absolutely. My kids from age 5 to 26. A blessing, absolutely, Wildcat. Well, the ages are 5, let's see if I get it right, 5, 7, 11, 12, 14, 19, 21, 22, or 22 and 23, and 26. All the same mom, all the same dad. All had in wedlock. We've been married for 26 years, 27 years. And we had our first just under a year after we got married. Nucky Piper. She's not impressed, Steam Gent. I don't think she's ever seen any of my videos. Night, PA. You too. No, I don't scrape the inside of the pipe. I've never had the need. My pipes don't have such a build-up. What tobacco do you smoke, Steam Gent? I haven't as yet smoked in front of my parents, and I've often wondered how, good night, PA, how my mother would take to it, because I think they know that I smoke a pipe. But my grandfather used to smoke a cigar, always smoked cigars, and I wonder whether it would bring back memories for her if she would smell that aroma. But it's probably not something that they would like, so I don't shove it in their nose, so to speak. That doesn't surprise me, Steam Gent. If you're smoking nice aromatics like that, then no reason for them not to like it. Sometimes when I go out for the day with the family, if we're outdoors, I will take an aromatic with, and I'll get some oohs and ahs. That smells good, but it doesn't change the overall attitude. I think my kids, if I was to ask them the question, would they rather I didn't smoke a pipe, they'd probably say yes, they'd rather I didn't from the health point of view. But I think they are quite fascinated by it. I think they like the idea of the pipes and the tobaccos and all of that, but right. It's 20 to 4 in the morning, people. So, absolutely lucky, Piper. I'm going to wish you all a wonderful weekend, the rest of the weekend. Thank you very much for joining. Much appreciate it. Thank you, Lucky Piper, Ryan, Steam Gent, PA Piper, Wildcat, Cal Delta Piper, Abdullah, Morgan Steele, if you're still there, over a pipe. I didn't see you there, in case you're still there. Sorry. Meeks, Peace Piper, Nathaniel, nice to see you on board. What are you doing up at this time in the morning anyway? Eric, thank you for joining. Peace, Pipes and Bees. And Harold, if you're still there, I hope you've fallen asleep in a drunken stupor by the toilet with your face in the bowl, throwing up all over it. But I hope you'll feel better in the morning. And everybody else, I wish you all a wonderful rest of the weekend. And I will catch you on the next one. You're praying now. What's the time? It's 20 to 6 in the morning. Okay, it's a bit early. Good night, Gonzalo. Thank you for joining. Good night, Art.